As I sit here surrounded by the memories of a lifetime, I'm reminded of the countless evenings I spent with my grandmother Aurora. She had this habit of rocking alone in her chair, lost in thought every evening without fail. It was as if the gentle creak of the chair's wooden frame was a lullaby to her soul. I loved watching her, mesmerized by the wisdom etched on her face, her blue eyes sparkling like a summer sky on a clear day. Her hugs were legendary, capable of healing any pain, comforting any sorrow. To me, she was an open book, a woman of unyielding joy and unconditional love. But little did I know that perception was about to be shattered into a million pieces. It was after she passed away, in the quiet hours of a rainy afternoon, that I stumbled upon something that would change everything. While sorting through her belongings, I opened an old wooden box that had been tucked away in a corner of her attic. The box itself was unassuming, its surface worn smooth by years of neglect. But as I lifted the lid, a faint scent of lavender wafted out, carrying with it whispers of the past. Inside, nestled between yellowed letters and faded photographs, lay a small worn leather diary. Its cover was embossed with a single elegant name, Aurora. The pages, yellowed with age, seemed to whisper secrets to me as I gently opened the book. In that moment, a shiver ran down my spine. Who would have thought that my grandmother, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, kept a secret diary? The realization hit me like a tidal wave. There was so much more to Aurora than met the eye. As I began to read the first entries, I felt like I was uncovering a piece of history, a piece of our family's story that had been hidden for decades. This diary was more than just a collection of words on paper. It was a key to a lifetime of secrets, of forbidden love, of sacrifices made and treasures lost across generations. Over the coming hours and days, as I devour every word of this hidden diary, I promise you, dear listener, that you will be taken on a journey through the extraordinary life of Aurora. You'll witness the power of love that defied conventions, the strength of a woman who lived through times of great turmoil, and the legacy she left behind, hidden but not forgotten. This story is a testament to the enduring power of love, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, always a light to guide us through. As we embark on this journey together, I invite you to sit with me, to rock gently in your own chair, and let the stories of Aurora envelop you. For in her story you'll find pieces of your own, and perhaps like me, you'll discover that the people we think we know best can still surprise us, can still teach us the value of love, sacrifice, and the hidden legacies we leave behind. In the late 1930s, nestled in the heart of America, lay Willow Creek, a small quiet rural town untouched by the rapid changes of the modern world. It was a place where simplicity and peace reigned, where the rhythms of nature dictated daily life. Mornings began with the early sun rising over vast fields, where hard-working farmers like Aurora's parents tilled the soil with love and care. The air was crisp, filled with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers and the distant hum of insects. Aurora, a young woman with a heart full of dreams, lived with her family in a modest farmhouse. Her eyes sparkled with a love for reading, often getting lost in the pages of worn novels found in the local library. Her imagination knew no bounds, and she would often sit under the shade of an ancient oak, scribbling in her notebook, letting her thoughts wander to far-off lands. She was a dreamer, with a subtle yearning for something more than the familiar fields and routines of Willow Creek. Her family was close-knit and affectionate. Her older brother, Thomas, spent hours poring over aviation magazines, his heart set on flying high above the clouds one day. Little Lily, on the other hand, saw the world through the lens of poetry, her short verses capturing the beauty of the simplest things. A dewdrop on a spider's web, the laughter of children playing in the creek. The evenings were filled with stories and laughter, the family gathering around the fireplace, sharing tales of their day. The routine of their lives was dictated by nature: mornings in the fields, school afternoons, and starry nights that seemed to stretch on forever. Yet amidst this peaceful backdrop, Aurora felt an inner restlessness, a sense that there was more to life than the serene but limited world of Willow Creek. It was a subtle, unarticulated desire, a whisper in her heart that she couldn't quite ignore. As she helped her family with the farm work, her mind would wander to the books she had read, to the stories of adventure and love that seemed to call to her. She felt a deep connection to the land, to the people and the traditions of her town, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was a larger world out there, waiting to be explored, loved, and lived. The evenings when the day's work was done, and the family retired to their cozy home, Aurora would sometimes slip out into the night, sitting on the porch watching the stars twinkle to life. It was in these quiet moments that she felt the weight of her dreams, the pull of the unknown, and the whisper of a future that seemed to beckon her towards it, with a gentle but insistent voice. Little did she know, the peaceful shores of Willow Creek were about to be stirred by the winds of change, and her life, like the creek's gentle flow, was about to be altered forever. As the summer of 1939 waned, the peacefulness of Willow Creek began to fray at the edges. News of European tensions seeped into our small town, like the slow trickle of autumn leaves. At first, it seemed a distant rumble, a murmur of grown-ups in the evenings, their faces lit by the soft glow of the radio. Thomas, my brother, would often gather around the wireless with the other boys, their eyes aglow with excitement, talking of adventure and heroism. But our parents' faces told a different story. Worry etched on their brows, concern for our safety and livelihood. Aurora, my grandmother, would sit quietly, her eyes fixed on some point beyond the horizon, her mind whirling with questions. I recall her writing in her diary by lamplight, her face a map of worry and concern. The world she knew was shifting, like the sand beneath the creek's smooth stones. She began to see that the world's justice was not as clear-cut as she'd imagined. The brutal reality of war was seeping into her dreams, like the shadows that lengthened as summer gave way to autumn. It was then that Elias arrived in Willow Creek, a young man in a military uniform, with eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 secrets. He walked into our local diner, his stride confident, his gaze sweeping the room as if searching for someone. And then he saw Aurora. Their eyes met, and for a moment time stood still. The air seemed to vibrate with an unspoken connection, like the hum of a harp string. Elias was different from the other boys in town. There was an air of mystery about him, a sense of purpose that went beyond the ordinary. He seemed to carry a weight, a secret mission that only he knew. As he approached Aurora, I sensed a spark of curiosity, a sense that their lives were about to become entwined in ways neither of them could have imagined. The wind rustled through the trees as Elias approached our farm, his footsteps quiet on the dusty road. Aurora's eyes never left his face, her heart beating just a little bit faster. And I knew in that moment that their lives were about to change forever. The peacefulness of Willow Creek was about to be shattered, and love and war would become perilously intertwined. As the summer days waned, Aurora and Elias's clandestine meetings became more frequent, always under the guise of secrecy. They'd steal away to the old barn, its rustic beams bathed in the warm golden light of sunset, or walk hand in hand through the sunflower field, the tall stalks swaying gently in the breeze like sentinels guarding a precious secret. In these moments the war seemed a distant rumble, and all that mattered was the solace they found in each other's company. Their love blossomed like a wildflower, untamed and resilient, providing a beacon of hope amidst the gathering storm. Elias, with his piercing blue eyes and sharp mind, had a way of making Aurora feel seen and understood, as if he could peer into the very soul of her. And she, with her bright laughter and compassionate heart, brought light into his life, chasing away the shadows that haunted him. One evening, as they sat together on a weathered bench, Elias revealed to Aurora the truth about his presence in Willow Creek. He was not just a lost soul, but a German scientist, a deserter from a regime he could no longer stomach. His mission, he confessed, was to find a powerful encryption device, an artifact that could change the course of the war. This device, he explained, was hidden somewhere in Willow Creek, and he believed it was the key to preventing a catastrophic outcome. As Elias spoke, Aurora felt her world tilt on its axis. The man she loved was not just a mysterious stranger but a hero, driven by a desire to do what was right in the face of overwhelming danger. And she, once a passive observer of life, found herself drawn into his quest, reluctant but determined. Around them, the tranquility of Willow Creek began to fray. Strangers appeared in town, their eyes cold and calculating, their smiles thin and unconvincing. They asked questions, probing for information about a young man matching Elias's description, and Aurora felt the noose tightening. The once peaceful streets now seemed fraught with danger, and every stranger's face seemed to hold a threat. It was then that Elias revealed another secret. The artifact was hidden in a secret, ancient labyrinth beneath the old church, a labyrinth crafted by his mentor, a clockmaker with a genius for the obscure. With Aurora's help, they set out to find it, navigating the dark, dusty passages, their footsteps echoing off stone walls adorned with ancient symbols. Aurora's diary became her sole confidant, a repository of her fears, her love, and her growing determination. As she wrote by candlelight, the pages filling with her innermost thoughts, she felt a sense of purpose unfolding. She was no longer just a girl from Willow Creek. She was a participant in something much larger, a story of love, sacrifice, and resistance. The diary entries grew more urgent, reflecting the escalating danger. Aurora wrote of Elias's eyes, which seemed to hold 1,000 secrets, of his hands, which could convey a world of emotion with a single touch. She wrote of her own heart, once closed but now open to the possibility of love and loss. And she wrote of the artifact, a mysterious object that seemed to hold the key to their future. As the stakes rose, Aurora found herself transforming, growing more courageous and resourceful with each passing day. She knew that she was taking risks, that her family's safety was no longer guaranteed, but she couldn't help herself. She was in love, and she would do whatever it took to protect that love, to protect Elias, and to see their story through to its uncertain end. As I recall the evenings spent with Grandma Aurora, I remember how she'd rock alone in her chair, lost in thought. But the chair kept rocking after she left, a gentle reminder that her stories, her love, and her legacy continued to move, even when she wasn't here to tell them. The air was thick with anticipation as Aurora and Elias navigated the narrow passages of the underground labyrinth. Their hearts pounded in unison, each step echoing through the silence like a challenge to the unknown. The clockmaker's genius had left them a final puzzle, a riddle etched into the stone above the entrance to the secret chamber. Where shadows dance, light reveals. Aurora's eyes met Elias's, and without a word, they knew what they had to do. Their hands intertwined, they moved as one, their footsteps deliberate and cautious. The walls seemed to close in, the darkness pressing against their skin like a physical force. And then a faint glow appeared in the distance, illuminating the chamber ahead. Inside they found it, the artifact, a small, intricately carved box made of a material that seemed almost otherworldly. It pulsed with a soft blue light, as if it held a piece of the sky itself. But their joy was short-lived. The sound of boots echoed through the passages, growing louder with each passing moment. Nazi agents, their faces twisted with malice, stormed into the chamber, guns drawn. Aurora and Elias fought back, their movements swift and desperate. Aurora used her knowledge of the labyrinth to evade their captors, leading them through a maze of twisting corridors and hidden doors. Elias took a bullet, his body crashing to the ground, and Aurora's world shattered. She cradled his head in her lap, tears streaming down her face as she begged him to stay with her. But Elias's eyes were already glazing over, his voice barely above a whisper. "Aurora, you must go," he urged, his words laced with a conviction that brooked no argument. "Take the artifact, hide it, and never let it fall into the wrong hands. You are the keeper of this secret, the guardian of hope." As the agents closed in, Aurora knew she had to act. With a strength she never knew she possessed, she grabbed the artifact and sprinted through the labyrinth, the sound of gunfire and shouts fading into the distance. She emerged into the cool night air, gasping for breath, and looked down at the box in her hands. It was small, but it felt like it weighed a ton. She opened it, and a wave of memories washed over her, memories of Elias, of their laughter, of their whispers in the darkness. The diary she had kept all these years seemed to stir within her, a reminder of the love they shared, the sacrifices they made, and the legacy they forged in the fire of war. Aurora's eyes dried as she looked up at the stars, a sense of determination burning within her. She would carry Elias's sacrifice with her always, and she would make sure that their love, their story, and the artifact's secret lived on, a beacon of hope in a world torn apart. The chair rocked on, a gentle reminder that even in stillness, there is movement, and in silence, there is a story waiting to be told. As I emerged from the labyrinth, the darkness seemed to swallow me whole, like a shroud cast over the world. The rain lashed down, stinging my skin, and I shivered not just from the cold, but from the weight of what had just transpired. Elias, the man I loved, was gone. His sacrifice still echoed in my mind, a haunting refrain that refused to fade. I stumbled through the night, the artifact clutched tightly in my hand, its pulsing light a bittersweet reminder of all that I had lost. The return home was a blur. My family, concerned by my late-night absence, greeted me with worried faces, but I couldn't bring myself to meet their gazes. I felt like a stranger in my own home, a fugitive from the truth. The news of Elias's death had to be explained, and so I told them it was an accident, a tragic mishap in the labyrinth. They offered condolences, but I knew they couldn't truly understand the depth of my pain. I was alone in my grief, isolated by the secret I now carried. In the silence of my room, I allowed myself to crumble. The diary, Elias's diary, became my sole confidant, the one place where I could express the anguish that threatened to consume me. I poured out my heart onto its pages, the words flowing like tears. The weight of the artifact, now hidden from prying eyes, was a constant reminder of the promise I had made to Elias. I felt its presence, a steady heartbeat in my pocket, a symbol of the responsibility I now bore. As the days passed, I struggled to maintain a facade of normalcy. Family meals became a charade, with me playing the role of the grieving girl, while inside, I was drowning in a sea of sorrow. My parents and siblings noticed the change in me, but they couldn't fathom its depth. I was adrift, lost in a world that seemed to have moved on without Elias. Yet, even in the midst of such overwhelming grief, a spark within me began to flicker. A determination, born of Elias's sacrifice and my own sense of purpose, started to take root. I began to study the artifact, poring over Elias's notes in the diary, seeking to understand its secrets. The local library became my refuge, a place where I could lose myself in books and research. I felt Elias's presence with me, guiding me, urging me onward. The artifact, once a symbol of loss, was slowly becoming a beacon of hope, illuminating a path that I would walk alone, but with Elias's memory as my guide. As the seasons passed, Aurora found herself drawn to the anonymity of a larger city, a place where she could blend into the crowd and continue her secret mission without the watchful eyes of Willow Creek. She settled into a modest apartment, its walls adorned with maps and papers, a sanctuary for her research and contemplation. The city's din and chaos became her solace, a reminder that she was no longer alone in her grief. Aurora devoted herself to understanding the artifact, poring over Elias's diary, and scouring libraries and archives for any mention of the relojero's genius. She consulted experts discreetly, careful not to arouse suspicion, and spent countless hours deciphering codes and studying the artifact's pulsing blue light. The diary became her Bible, guiding her through the labyrinth of her research. As she delved deeper into the artifact's secrets, Aurora discovered its true power. It was more than a simple encryption device. It was a tool for intelligence, capable of deciphering enemy codes and predicting strategic movements. The revelation sent a shiver down her spine. She felt Elias's presence, guiding her towards a greater purpose. Aurora's transformation was nothing short of remarkable. She developed skills in observation, discretion, and counterintelligence, becoming a self-taught agent driven by necessity and her promise to Elias. She learned to decipher coded messages, to subtly evade surveillance, and to gather information in public settings. The once quaint young woman from Willow Creek had evolved into a resourceful and capable individual, driven by a sense of duty and love. But with growth came solitude, and the emotional toll of her secret life weighed heavily on her heart. There were moments when the loneliness seemed insurmountable, when the weight of her mission threatened to crush her. Yet she persevered, fueled by Elias's memory and the importance of her mission. The Nazi threat still lingered, agents actively searching for the artifact, forcing Aurora to remain vigilant and constantly aware of the danger. One evening, as she walked home from the library, she noticed a suspicious individual lingering in the shadows. His eyes flicked towards her, and for a moment their gazes locked. Aurora quickened her pace, her heart racing, as she disappeared into the crowd. The encounter left her shaken, but she refused to be intimidated. In the silence of her apartment, surrounded by the trappings of her research, Aurora steeled herself for the challenges ahead. She knew that her journey was far from over, that the road ahead would be fraught with peril. But she was no longer the same young woman who had fallen in love with Elias. She was now a guardian of secrets, a keeper of the artifact's power, and a force to be reckoned with. The chair she rocked alone in her evenings seemed to creak in agreement, a reminder that even in stillness, there was movement, and in silence there was strength. As the war finally drew to a close, Aurora felt a sense of relief wash over her, like the gentle lapping of waves on a still pond. She had done it. She had contributed to the Allied forces in a way that had changed the course of history. The artifact, once a burden, had become a tool for good, transmitting crucial intelligence that had frustrated enemy plans and contributed to strategic victories. She remembered the countless nights spent in her secret office, fingers flying across the radio keys, sending messages that had helped turn the tide of the war. The quiet satisfaction of having fulfilled her mission settled in her heart, like a warm ember that glowed softly in the darkness. Aurora knew that she had played a small part in shaping the world, and that knowledge brought her a sense of peace. As she looked back on the years of struggle and sacrifice, she realized that it had all been worth it. With the war behind her, Aurora sought a new beginning. She returned to Willow Creek, the small town where her journey had first begun. The familiar fields and forests welcomed her back, and she settled into a simple, peaceful life. She dedicated herself to community building, using her experiences to help others. She worked with local families affected by the war, sharing her knowledge and skills to help them rebuild. The artifact, once a symbol of danger and uncertainty, had become a cherished reminder of Elias and her past. She carefully stored it in a beautiful music box, its delicate notes a soothing balm to her soul. The music box sat on a shelf in her cozy living room, surrounded by books and mementos from a lifetime of love and loss. As the years passed, Aurora grew into the wise, loving grandmother the narrator knew. Her eyes sparkled with a deep understanding, and her smile could light up a room. She embodied wisdom and serenity, her past a part of her, but no longer defining her present struggles. The narrator, looking back, understood that Aurora's seemingly simple life had been built upon extraordinary experiences and profound sacrifices. The diary, now a treasured possession, revealed the depth of her character. The narrator read the pages filled with stories of love, loss, and courage. They saw their grandmother in a new light, as a strong, resilient woman who had faced the challenges of war and emerged transformed. As they sat with her in the evenings, listening to her stories and laughter, they felt a deep connection to the past, and a newfound appreciation for the woman who had shaped their life. In those quiet moments, surrounded by the people and places she loved, Aurora knew that she had found her true purpose. She had lived a life of sacrifice and service, but it had been worth it. For in the end she had found peace, and a sense of belonging to something greater than herself. And as the chair rocked gently in the evening, a soft smile on her face, the narrator knew that they would always cherish the legacy of Grandma Aurora. As I sit here, surrounded by the memories of a lifetime, I find myself reflecting on the diary that changed everything. It's not just a collection of pages filled with my grandmother Aurora's handwriting. It's a map to her soul, a window into the extraordinary life she lived and the love she shared so selflessly. Reading her words, I began to see her in a new light, not just as my grandmother, but as a young woman who faced unimaginable challenges and emerged transformed. I remember the stories she used to tell me, of fairies and heroes, of magical worlds and daring quests. I now realize that these weren't just childhood fantasies. They were metaphors for her own heroic journey. The artifact, the secrets, the sacrifices, it all makes sense now. Aurora's life was a tapestry woven with threads of courage, love, and sacrifice, and I feel humbled to have been a part of it. Her legacy isn't just about the artifact or the secrets she kept. It's about the silent strength she embodied, the wisdom she shared through her stories, and the unconditional love she showed to everyone around her. It's about the complexity and beauty of life's tapestry, with all its twists and turns. As I look back, I see parallels between her struggles and triumphs and my own life. Her experiences continue to inspire and guide me, reminding me that even in the darkest moments, there is always hope. Finding the diary has been a journey of emotional catharsis for me. It's given me peace and a deeper understanding of life and courage. The diary has become a personal treasure, a guide that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Aurora's story has shown me that our lives are not isolated incidents, but part of a larger narrative that spans generations. Her example has inspired me to discover my own hidden stories and share them with others. I realize now that we all have our own extraordinary tales to tell, our own legacies to leave behind. As I close this chapter of my journey, I feel a sense of closure and profound understanding. The story of Grandma Aurora's hidden diary will stay with me forever, a reminder of the power of love, sacrifice, and the enduring legacy of a life well lived. And as I look directly at you, I want you to know that you too have a story worth telling, a legacy worth leaving behind. As I sit here reflecting on Grandma Aurora's story, I'm reminded of the profound impact one person can have on the lives of those around them. Her hidden diary, a testament to her courage, love, and resilience, has taught us that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. Through her journey, we've witnessed the transformative power of sacrifice, the strength of the human spirit, and the enduring legacy of love. If Aurora's story has resonated with you, then I know that its purpose has been fulfilled. But I also know that this story doesn't end here. It continues through each of us, in our own experiences, struggles, and triumphs. As we close this chapter, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on the lessons we've shared. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more stories of inspiration and courage, and share this journey with someone who might need to hear it. Your engagement means the world to us, and it allows us to keep sharing these powerful stories. As we say goodbye to Grandma Aurora's story, I leave you with a question. What secret do you think Grandma Aurora held dearest to her heart? One that guided her through the trials and tribulations of her life? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Let us carry the torch of Aurora's legacy, spreading love, hope, and inspiration to all those around us. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May Grandma Aurora's story stay with you forever, a reminder of the strength and beauty that lies within each of us.